that we're just calling friends. Some of you now are just kind of minds rolling. I've been asked if I'm going to do a message just titled, "How You Doing?" But I probably won't. Although it could be a good title, "How You Doing?" But not if I say it like that. But if you got your Bibles, you can turn with me. Oh, it's a little dark, squint. Focus in all the light. 1 Samuel chapter 20. And will you stay standing with me? Just for the preaching of the message, the whole thing. Just... In 1 Samuel 20, and right here, this is an area. Saul's after David. He hasn't begun to chase him yet. David's staying in the castle. He's there, but the spirit of Saul has turned, and Saul's wanting to kill David. He's already, by this point, thrown a spear at him. That's a pretty good hint that he's coming after you. And there's a feast taking place. And there's just a part of this feast I want us to just kind of focus on. In verse 24, it says, "Then David hid in the field. And when the new moon had come, the king sat down to eat the feast." Now the king sat on his seat, as at other times, on a seat by the wall. And Jonathan arose, and Abner sat by Saul's side, but David's place was empty. Nevertheless, Saul did not say anything that day, for he thought, something has happened to him. He's unclean. Surely he's unclean. Surely there's a reason he's missed this meal. And it happened the next day, and the second day of the month, that David's place was empty. And Saul said to Jonathan, his son, "Why has the son of Jesse not come to eat, either yesterday or today?" Now I'm going to stop there, because here's the thing I want to focus on. Is the attitude in the house and the atmosphere over an empty seat. And I think we lose sight sometimes of the empty seats, the empty spots. And I just want us to just look at it a little differently this morning. So before you're seated, will you turn to your neighbor and say, "I'm really glad you're here this morning, because I have a feeling he might preach against them that ain't." Yeah. I'm really glad you're here. You just want to say, "I'm glad I didn't miss this one," because they'll be talking about, no, not really. We won't, maybe. There's an atmosphere. Notice in this what's happening. Saul's having a feast. The king's having a feast, and everything is perfect. I mean, this is the king's feast. Everything's perfect. Everybody's there except one person,
And Saul cannot focus. He can't even enjoy the meal because of the empty place. He's so focused on the one that isn't here. And watch how it plays out, because the first day it bothers Saul, but he doesn't even say anything about it. He's assuming at this point, and at this point it's just, well, surely he's unclean. There better be a good reason he's not here. He might be sick. Maybe that's it. You know, maybe this is and he's just playing the thoughts. There's got to be a reason he's not here today, but he doesn't say anything. But the second day comes. Second day of the feast, and as they're eating, and everybody else is enjoying, but Saul's seeing the king is just looking still at that place. The right here. This can't even really see anything else. It's just that one place, and he's got and he begins to go, now we've gone to, surely he's sick, to now he better have a good reason. Let me ask my son Jonathan, because him and David are tight. They've even cut themselves and made a blood covenant. You got to be tight to do that with somebody. Let me ask him, why isn't he here? What's going on? What's the matter? And I just want to point out something to you right now. Just kind of focus, because the enemy will play on you so bad. Can I just tell you, you matter when you're not here? You're noticed when you're not here. And I know you might miss a Sunday and you don't get the cards in the mail and you don't get the phone calls, and the enemy will be saying, they didn't even notice I'm here. I can't believe no one even noticed I wasn't here. And you might throw that pity party, but you are noticed. Listen, Saul didn't even say anything the first day. He's just assuming, well, they can miss once. You know, I can see that. Maybe they were just sick. Maybe they were going. Maybe they went on vacation. Maybe they just had a little. I don't know. But they just didn't come today. That's okay. But the more you miss, the more it begins to bother, the more it begins to affect the atmosphere. You are noticed when you're missing. We notice. Don't let the enemy lie to you and tell you nobody cares, nobody notices, it just doesn't matter. Listen, I just recently, I remember I text somebody and just said, hey, we missed you today. And their response, because the enemy had already been working on them. The enemy had already started. And their response was, well, I missed before and you never said. Missing you less now. No. I said, well, you've never missed 2 in a row. I know I didn't say anything the first time. I just assumed, but this is 2 in a row, and you never missed two in a row. But the enemy had already begun to play, because we think, well, nobody cares. Listen, you matter. Watch. The whole atmosphere changed in the room. The fact that David wasn't there affected the atmosphere of the whole dinner. Saul couldn't even enjoy it. Saul, he's got the best food in front of him, the best meal. He has his family around him, but he can't even enjoy the feast because somebody's missing. Have you ever noticed how the atmosphere changes depending on who's here or not. You think back, what are some of the best church services you've been in? And when you look around, I promise you, there was a packed house. The atmosphere changed. Man, when there's a packed house, there's a spirit in the house. When God's people all gather together and they are praying, there is nothing like worshiping with all of God's people in a packed house, and there's unity. There is nothing like it in the world. His presence falls so strong. The atmosphere is changed. But you get a service, and there's people missing, and there's some sick. When we get, oh my goodness, when we go through those times when it's, and I'm afraid it's coming up because school has started, and everybody gets sick when school starts. We rebuke that in Jesus' name. We rebuke that whole thought. Just a fear rises up right now, and just the thought of the empty seats. All of a sudden, the services, and I know you're thinking, well, hey, Jesus is here. Yeah, but this person's not, and it affected the atmosphere. I couldn't even enjoy it. I have a problem. Let me be, and I hate saying this because, in fact, I won't even say it. I almost said a bad habit. Let me be honest with you. I promise I'm honest all the time. I try. But let me just tell you, as a pastor, there are times, and you can ask my wife, that I'll go home, we can have the best service, I can preach, and all I can think about is I'm naming, they weren't here. I wonder where they were. Have you heard from them? I didn't see them. Because hey, we all have our seats right now. Some of y'all are throwing me off because I had to look. And Matt and Jennifer Harris y'all are never over there. So I'm looking over here. And it was throwing me off. And then Don and Betty are sitting here, but I can find y'all. Because we all get in patterns of we get in our seats. And you really aren't supposed to sit here. Can you switch places with... Because we have our seats. And in my mind, when I'm preaching, it takes a while because my focus begins on the empty ones are the ones that bother me the most. And I have to get focused on who is here because my thoughts go to who's not here. Because it's the voices from the empty seats that cry out the loudest sometimes. And Saul's at this place, and it's the voice, it's the one who isn't there that is crying out the loudest. And it's changed his mood, it's changed the atmosphere, it's changed everything, all because he wasn't here. And can I tell you, let me just share with you, it's not that we need you only, you need the church. Look at what the writer of Hebrews says. In Hebrews chapter 10, verse 24, he said, let us consider one another. Let us consider one another in order, here's why, to stir up love and good works. Can I just, listen, I love better with you. I work better. You love better. We build each other up. We stir one another up in these areas. You love better. You work better. Everything's better. Why? When we're together. So he says, listen, consider one another in order. Here's the reason. Because we stir up love and good works in each other. And he goes on, not forsaking the assembling of yourselves together, as is the manner of some. We're not going to name names, but we know it's the manner of some, but not us. we're not doing that. We're not going to forsake the assembling together because we need each other. Listen, here's why. But exhorting one another. That exhorting, it's encouraging. Encouraging one another. And so much more as you see the day approaching. Man, I could just stop right there and preach about the day that's approaching and how you can see it closer so that even more so we need each other. But I just want to focus on this one thing, is that the church needs you, but you need the church. You need the church. We build each other up. We encourage one another. We strengthen one another. We go through struggles together. We're better together. So you need the church. I've never seen someone lose their relationship with God quickly. I've always seen it spread out. That it happens. And you know how it happens? It happens with a miss. And another miss. And it's so innocent. It might be a miss because we went on vacation. And I'm not preaching against that. Trust me, I'm not. I miss when I go on vacation. So it would be hypocritical of me to preach on that you should never miss on vacation. But what happens is I miss on vacation, and then my kids have something, so I'm not able to make it then. And then before you know it, we've got 2 or 3, and then we get out of a whole habit. And then it's hard to get back in it because it seems to not take long to establish a bad habit in my life, but it takes forever to establish a good habit in my life. So I miss church, and then now I'm just out of the habit, and then I wonder, and nobody's calling me. They called the first couple of times, but now they're not even calling me because I'm not around, because I separated myself, and then I go through struggles, and I don't have somebody there with me who went through struggles just like this and are there to encourage me, and I'm not getting built up, and I'm not getting the strength because I forsook the assembling of myself with them. So now I'm hurting, and now I'm broken, and I don't have anybody to walk me through this, and I don't have the love in my life that I really need because no one's there stirring it up in my life, and I'm not even doing the really good works anymore because there's no one's around to stir it up. Well, because I left. Listen, you need the church. And it happens so innocently. But here's the whole reason it happens, because Peter said this in describing how someone falls. He says, as a warning, that be sober, be vigilant. Why? Because your adversary, the devil, it's really him that's your enemy. I know you think it's someone else that hurt you, but it's really the devil. Your adversary. He walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. You know what the lion does? Man, this last Wednesday in our Faith Cafe class, which we're not having anymore. Now we're having a ladies' class. Let me throw that plug in for you. We're having a ladies' class on Wednesday night, starting it up this Wednesday. It'd be really good for you. And then men, you're going to have a men's class also. It's going to be awesome. So you need each other. We'll build each other up. The things that we struggle, the things that we go through, we'll have one another. So we're kicking this off this Wednesday, and you really need one another. So you need to be here Wednesday night. Okay. Whew. That's the fastest I've ever talked in my life because I come from the South. like took my breath away. Man, never be an auctioneer. But on Wednesday, in our Faith Cafe class, it taught on the devil as a roaring lion. And the thing that caught me so much in that class was the reason of the lion's roar. It's intimidation. And the job of the lion, when he roars, his job is to try and separate. He tries his best to get you to run from just the roar. And he roars loud. And if he can get you to run instead of staying with your pack, he'll get you. And the whole purpose of how many you go through things, and isn't that what he does? He'll roar in your head. He'll begin to roar, and fear will begin to creep in. Some of y'all, when y'all go through something, the enemy roars. They're watching you. You know what they're saying about you? And it's not even true. It's just what he's roaring. Why? Because he's trying to separate from a pack. Because I've watched, if he can separate you, he will attack you. In fact, one of the most amazing things that come out of that class that I saw, or one of the greatest points was this, that there's safety in the numbers in the pack. And that the lion really can't see the pack. He focuses on the one. If you're together, he can't see you. He just sees the pack. But if he can get you separated, he focuses on that one. And I've watched, because it's not necessarily the weak one that the lion kills, it's the loner that the lion kills. The weak will make it. The weak will make it if they can somehow stay in the pack. The young can make it if they will stay in the pack. The one that the enemy goes after is the one that gets out of the pack, gets out of the hole. If you can listen, it's not those that fail that are just weak. You can struggle all your way to heaven if you'll just struggle with us. Come on, somebody. If we'll just listen, we're all struggling. We all have things. We all have doubts. We all go through things. But if we can just do it together, we'll make it. As long as we stay together, the enemy can't get us. He can't see us. He can't touch us. He's only after you if you separate. So don't forsake the assembling. You need the church. Don't fall into that trap. Don't fall into that lie. Don't fall. It's just roaring that's taking place. The only way he attacks is if the roar gets you separated from the pack. So you need the church. You need the church. You tell your neighbor, because they're not listening to me right now. Maybe they'll listen to you. You tell them, you need the church. You need it. You need it. You need the church. Listen, you need the church not every Sunday. You need the church every day. You need the church. You need... Let me just describe who the church is. You. The church really isn't the building. We gather here for the feast. right? The church is you. The church is me. And really, the church is building the relationships with one another that you can lean upon one another. Listen, you can come to here and come to the feast and never be a part of the church. And wonder why the enemy attacks you because you're not a part and you haven't locked in and you haven't built the relationships, you haven't made the connections, you haven't gotten involved. Pastor's rambling now. I don't like it. You need the church. And Saul, for the feast, the king's focus at the feast was the empty chairs. I say that because I'm afraid we've lost our focus of what the king sees. And we've thought the feast is all about me. And everything's for me, when it's really, in God's eyes, the king's eyes, all about them. Because each chair represents a soul that's not getting fed, that's not getting God, that's not getting healed, that's not getting delivered, that's separated away, that the enemy's after. Each empty seat represents somebody that needs God. And I'm afraid we've fallen into a place that we have not heard the cries of them. We come and we enjoy. We come and we enjoy the fellowship. We come and we enjoy. But how many of you are glad someone saw a seat that was empty that needed to be filled, and you came? Listen, Jesus gave a parable and described a certain scene in Luke chapter 14. And I want you to just catch the emphasis of what gets his attention more than anything. Listen to this. It says, "Then he said to him, a certain man gave a great supper and invited many, and sent his servant at supper time to say to those who were invited, 'Come, for all things are now ready.' But they all with one accord began to make excuses. The first said to him, 'I bought a piece of ground, and I must go and see it.' 'I think you might have done that backwards. Maybe you need to go and see it and then buy a piece of ground.' Maybe what gets us in trouble is sometimes we do things backwards. Then it said, 'I ask you, have me excused.' And another said, 'I bought 5 oxen, and I'm going to test them. I ask you to have me excused.' Still another said, 'I've married a wife, and therefore I can't come.' Well, put on some pants in that family. Come on now. You blame her. You man up." Never mind. Marriage tips right there. Don't blame your wife. We got a marriage conference coming up this weekend. All right. "For I can't come." So that servant came and reported these things to his master. Watch this. Then the master of the house, being angry. You don't see. Let me just explain. The master represents Christ. In this parable, the master represents Jesus Christ. You don't see a lot of times that Jesus was angry. This made him angry. What made him angry was the people not there. And so he said to his servant, "Go out quickly into the streets and lanes of the city, and bring in here the poor and the maimed and the lame and the blind." And the servant said, "Master, it is done as you commanded, and still there is room." Then the master said to the servant, "Go out into the highways and hedges and compel them to come." Watch, here's the whole purpose of it all. "That my house may be filled." That my house may be filled. In this, watch, if I can bring it back around. The whole thing that upset the king, the master, at the feast isn't those that were here. It was the fact that there was empty places, and he's created a feast, and there's some empty spots. So he begs them, if they're not going to come, come on now, if those who know better, if those who served me, if those that I've invited before, if they're not going to come, then don't worry about it now. Don't worry about it. Don't put all your focus there. I've got to fill a house. I've got some seats that are empty, and there's some broken people, and there's some hurting people. There's some lame. There's some blind that the enemy has covered their eyes. And I want you to do something. I want you to go and bring them in, because how many of us were broken and lame and hurting and discouraged, but somebody came and brought us to the house? We know how that is. And he said, you go after them. You go after those that people don't want, that nobody desires. You go after them, and you fill my house up with those that are hurting. And then watch. The whole attitude of the servants change. There's some excitement now. Because now they're saying, "Oh, we've done it. We brought them in. There was this one that was hurting. There was that one that was hurting. There was this one that was blind. There was that one that was lame. This one that was so crippled, but we brought them." And now we've noticed there's still some empty seats. We didn't even see them before. We were so focused on ourselves, we didn't even see them. There was still some empty seats, so he gave another instruction. He said, "Then now go out into the highways," just the streets where everybody's at, "and go out to the hedges." You know, the hedges are the walls. How many know somebody that's built up some walls in their lives? Some of y'all came and you had some walls built up, but still somebody came after you. They jumped a wall to get to you and said, "You need God," and brought you and compelled you and made you come to the house, and all of a sudden some walls start coming down in your life. He said, "You go out into this area, in that area. You bring them all in." Why? For the whole purpose that my house will be filled, so that all the empty seats are filled up, because each one represents a soul, represents a life that needs me. It, friends. Listen, some of you, because somebody had enough love and enough care to look past your hurt and your pain, or look over your wall, that you didn't want people to see. that you built up because of your hurt and your pain, and you guarded yourself, but somebody loved you enough to go into the hedges, go past the barriers, and brought you. Somebody loved you enough to bring you to the house of God. And now what's happened in your life is you have friendship that you've never had before. Someone else needs that. Someone else needs that. Someone else needs the Master. Someone else needs, and I want you to focus not on yourself, but focus on empty. So one of the things that bothers me the most is that while I'm preaching, and when I'm up here, I see a balcony of seats. I know we think, we had a pretty good crowd. No, it's not full. The desire of the Master wasn't, maybe we can have a pretty good crowd for my feast. Well, you know, half full, hey, pretty good crowd. He said, I want it filled. My desire, and what angered him the most is that his house wasn't filled. Does it anger us? God, fill the house. Will you stand with me this morning? Listen, we have a Master that heals the broken, that heals the lame, gives sight to the blind, and we're not bringing them to him. And I'm afraid my fear is this, is that the Master gets angry at us because we forgot about the lost. And I want to stir you this morning. I want to encourage you. Your job is to fill a house. It's to fill the house. To compel. You know, compel is make. To do whatever you've got to do to get them here. To do whatever. Some of y'all, all you've got to do on your whatever is to ask. And I know that's hard, but it's to ask. It's to bring, to do it. It's to say, I'll pick you up. I'll buy you lunch. I'll watch your kid. That's compelling. Man, we'll fill the house if all of us just start saying, we'll watch your kid. Come on. Let's fill it. Father, right now, God, I pray you begin to stir us like never before. God, that all of a sudden, everywhere we look through your eyes, through your heart. God, that we see the broken, that we see the hurting, that we see those, God, that need you more than anybody. God, that life has taken control of them and life has beat them down, but God, you're their source of hope. So God, let us begin to see them. And God, let us bring them to you so that they can be fed and that your house will be filled. Give us eyes for the empty seats. God, stir us now.